Right, so Gary Atkin and Henry Wharton. Henry Wharton, former British Commonwealth European three-time world title challenger and full-time handsome bastard. Right, Gary Atkin. Do you know what? Do you know what I did before? I got a picture of Eddie Hearn, and it was the worst thing I ever did. Him, big 6'4", tall, dark, and handsome, and me 5'8". Do you know what I mean? So, right. So
Trying to say it.
the journey from day one you spent from St. Pat's as an amateur, right the way through to you can't get any better. WBC, WBO, just fell short. A journey together that did you see it from day one? Obviously, you've told me, I think, for a book that you knew he was special as soon as you see him, but did you see it? Did you envisage?
When Henry first come to the gym, well, he came down with his dad, and I was boxing that night. I went to get my bandages, if you remember. And so Henry walked into the gym on a Friday night, 2nd of December 1982, I think. And it was my last fight. I didn't know it would have been my last fight, but it was. And he came in, and I said, "You need to speak to Terry O'Neill." So he got in back of my van, and we went up to Meanwood Boxing Club where we met Terry, and he wanted to join. I didn't know much about Henry, to be honest with you. We were kids, 30, 40, something like that. 15, and but just after that, just when I used to watch him on the bags, I used to think, he looks a good kid. Because you can tell, you can train somebody till you're blue in the face and spend all your life with them.
Mm.
And if you've got natural ability, you've got it, and he had it.
And obviously, you went right the way through and you're together along with your Mickey Duffs, your Denny Mancini, your Terry O'Neills, a few other people in the background. I'm sure there was Eddie Fossey involved.
Terry Lawless.
Yeah, Terry Lawless, Jarvis Astaire, Mike Barr. I don't know how, but it must have been some journey, and you come across, as I said, your Ben Eubanks, your Vincenzo Nadiellos, and your Galvanos, your Sam Stories, was it as well? And Rod Douglas, not Rod.
Not Rod Douglas, not Sam Stories. Rod Carr.
Rod Carr.
Twice, Rod Carr.
You've been all over the world together. You've sparred in different camps and all this, and like now, looking back, 35, kicking on for 35 years. What was the start? 89.
89,
so 36 years ago.
Oh.
Is it like? Do you look back with hindsight now? Is it almost emotional? Like, wow, what a journey that was.
Yeah. You think about it, and people remind you of it because people think it were
people like me.
When you watch it from outside, but I never thought that because that's where we're from.
Yeah.
And Henry going with these big shows he were on, and I think you just get used to it.
Was it
You've always been involved in boxing?
Because I saw you. I mean, I've watched in the last couple of months. I've watched his fight several times. I've seen you walk into the ring. Bonnie Tyler, is it?
Tyler, yeah.
That music and Mickey Duff's kicking off, telling the crowd to move. Those were electric nights.
But it's just dreaming and walking there. I mean, I don't know what you remember. Henry tell you that. You can't remember nothing about that. You just get on and do your job. You don't hear the crowd. You do when you're waiting to come in. And then it's just same as every other fight.
I read somewhere the other day, because I'm one for forums, and that's what, not Facebook, Twitter, the forums is where all the boxing, proper anoraks like myself. And someone said to me, someone said, I read it, Henry Wharton hit like a heavyweight. You had the pads, you've still probably got the...
Let me tell you, Henry's going to be talking in a minute, but let me tell you, I've never ever had anybody on the pads who hits as hard, and we have had some heavyweights as Henry. We just have that power. And
was it just the left hook though?
No. Well, Henry's left-handed, so
yeah,
I think that's what.
But Oscar De La Hoya was, and Hagler was, but the other way.
But I'm left-handed. I was southpaw, but he's not. He's orthodox. I suppose that's where a lot of power comes from.
I think the right side was only to keep me balanced.
I did a book on Alan Thompson, footballer, Leeds captain. You might know him. And I actually said to him, Alan, your right foot was just for standing on. It was like, and that's if you were, it was like nothing compared to that left. It was like a train. It was a wrecking ball. Looking back, Gary, was there anyone that you took the fights and because I've read his book the other week and I've read, there was almost you were chasing the Bomber Graham fight. Was there anyone that you looked as a trainer and thought, oh, I don't want Henry in with him, or was any of his opponents worried you beforehand?
We let, well, just coming back a bit, we left a lot of that to Mickey Duff. He'd come up with it, then we'd find out. I would never like say stay away from him because we haven't got that far until somebody says is he find him. The Eubank fight, when he rang up, I remember exactly where we were. Henry was warming up in the ring. I got the phone call from Mickey Duff to the Eubank. He says, but ask Henry if he wants it. He said, I don't like it. Mickey Duff said that.
Yeah.
And he says, all his answer was, he said, Henry, do you want to fight? And Henry went,
Yeah. I mean, obviously there was bad needle there. And what I liked with Henry was
not with him, no.
no, with Duff,
Yeah,
and
with Duff.
obviously Duff called him scum. got fined £5,000. And what I liked about that Henry's dream, I think Henry said, "Hang on a minute, we were shocked. We were like, and we had to think, well, hang on a minute. I know you're with us, Mickey, but that's not our, because that's strong. That was,
It wasn't good, really.
It just come out of nowhere, basically.
We were all
It was at the
shocked.
press conference. It was at the press conference. It was
In
the last press
Manchester.
conference. It was wrong.
Are you aware of the reason why that was, though?
Yeah, I think
He tried to sue him. He settled out with court for 25 grand.
But it was wrong.
Yeah.
Completely wrong. It was wrong that day. It was wrong ever since he's done it. It was wrong. It felt
I
wrong.
think he
Didn't
probably regretted
it was wrong. And not only that day, truthfully, and we did say this afterwards, I do think that the way Eubank performed that night, which was super Eubank.
Yeah, it was. Career best, I think.
Where they were good in the past, good in the future, he was just good. He were really good that night. He were tough. I think mindset with boxers. Mindset was the inside and here. That's where you win in those fights. That's where you keep going because your body doesn't keep going. This keeps going. And I think he done things that night, even though he was tired and I pushed him to another level. He done things purposely for Mickey Duff.
Yeah.
He comes to
He
the
didn't
middle
help
of
the case, Mickey.
He basically give him fuel to the. Do you know what I mean?
It comes to the middle of the ring. Yeah, it comes to the middle of the ring, and I always remember it. He didn't look at me. I never used to look at me opponent anyway because I had no badness against him. We just what it was. When the bell went, we was fighting and everything. But when it comes to the middle of the ring, I looked like that, and he didn't look. He was looking straight at Mickey Duff. That's what so he was looking straight at Mickey Duff, but not just looking at him, staring at him. Yeah, and he didn't beat me that night. He was beating him. I firmly believe that he was beating him.
Yeah, do you know something? Someone said to me, a well-known fighter, won't name, and he said Mickey loved a blue-eyed boy who could sell tickets, good-looking, and he was more or less explaining. He was more or less to a T, Henry Wharton and Billy Swear, and you were his golden boy. So if he wanted to get up Duff's nose, what better than to beat you and look $1 million? Are you aware that there's a book? And it's called The World's Greatest Insults, and there's 2 of Mickey Duff's insults in that book, and one of them is Chris Eubank is as genuine as a $3 bill. There was needle, but
surprised me about Mickey. I thought there'd be more than Mickey.
And there was another one.
He used to come out with them.
Oh yeah, I mean, but there's hundreds. There might even be thousands, but there's 2 of Mickey Duff's. I mean, going back to his career. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I've forgotten of the archives, and there's full of you in the archives, and I can look at your career or your journey together and think it was a bit. Technically, do you know what? You weren't that far. You were 31. A lot of fighters can be really fresh, but I think you were, to quote you, done. Do you think he was done, Gary?
I think he had more fights in him, but what Henry said to me, he phoned me up and says, I want you to, because we were with Frank Maloney at the time.
Yeah.
Last 2 fights, what it last 2, and they were going to be a third with Crawford Ashley. And he just rang me up. We've been training, and he said he spoke to his dad. He'll tell you anyway. And he said, I've just had enough. That's it. And I said, well, if that's it, it's got to be. He wanted me. I had to bring Maloney.
But the thing is, you're a long time dead. You're a long time retired. And I had this conversation with Josh Wharton a couple of months, and I said, Josh, I don't think your legacy's here. I think you lost not long back. 9 stone 4. I said, listen, it's not supposed to be easy. You make 9 stone easy enough. For me, Henry Wharton, his legs were massive, and I think how do you know that you 12 and a half, obviously, because I didn't realise till reading your biography, two things I never knew about you. Hand injury, you were ravaged, and two, weight. Like, it was almost like once you weighed in, you'd won the fight.
Yeah.
And it was.
Jim, going back to that about when you know, there's nobody knows when they're finished or when they've had enough, but the boxer.
Mm.
You can't say, oh, you still look great. What we're saying, what we're going to continue to say is 3 times a day we're training and getting all clobbered off, getting dressed, sweating, getting off, having a shower, having a lay down, something to eat. It's here in an hour, back at gym, 2-3 times a day, and it's hard work. It's hard work, and the fighting, he uses the fights, easy, done. Once the weighing, you were right what you just said about the weighing. Once that's done,
So nobody knows a fighter more than a trainer, and you are obviously really close, even to this day. Like, did you not try and talk him out of it, or
No.
do you think you could have been spoken out of it?
No.
What if the price was right? Because another one of Mickey Duff's quotes was, "The person who says he can't be bought always comes at the biggest price."
You know me, Jamie.
Yeah.
Now. Gary knows me.
Yeah.
Money's nothing. Money don't mean nothing.
So what if there had been another Nigel Benn 2?
What happened? That was it. When I was done, I was done. I never fought again. You know that.
Yeah.
That was it. Done.
Hindsight's great.
I was true to the sport. I was true to me. I was true to everybody else. When I said I was retiring,
You must have had a lot of people going, "Oh, Henry, come on."
of course I did, and I got offered money. But do you know the thing was, it happened before then. That wasn't the final day. That was the final day. That was the last tap of the nail. But a long time out. I think I told you before. We done it before. I think it was when I lost to Eubank. This is the trouble. I was pushing, right? I was really pushing. I was fighting on fresh air. I was fighting the field. And then afterwards, I had to climb back to number one again in order to get another world title shot. They weren't going to give me
As you did after Ben, two knockouts straight back.
They weren't going to give me a chance. And something happened. I think I told you before. Somebody had said something. What are you going to do now? Is it over? With respect, something like that. And it was almost defiant. And I said, I'm going to reclaim the number one spot. I'm going to fight everybody. I'm going to win the European title. I'm going to win the fight the world title. I'm going to win it. And it was like defiance. And I'd done all that. And that's the truth, Jimmy, on nothing. I was as flat as you could ever get. And I won that thing and I reclaimed the number one spot. So they had to fight me. And I don't know how fresh air. I wasn't even running. I wasn't even home. But I'd done it against the odds. I didn't really want to be there. Truth. Because that battery, but I didn't mind fighting anybody. It was what we did. That was always the easy part. Not easy.
Was he a nervous fighter?
No.
Really?
They never shown. Some fighters you want to got to jam on. Some fighters you've got to keep them calm down. Henry was just Henry.
Because
like
in his book,
now all the time.
In the book, which I was really interested in. So you said you had this code with Denny Mancini that if you were ever behind, he had to whisper in your ear and say, "It's now time to go."
Yeah.
Did you ever have to do that with him?
No, I mean I'm a trainer. What you tell them what they were doing right, because you see some trainers in the corner and they've got a minute. By the time they sit down, there's 50 seconds, and you do this. You can't coach anybody in 50 seconds in the corner. Tell them what they're doing right. Keep doing it, or then he'll say, "Well, I used to leave it till the end, to be honest, so I'll get the breath back." And it's like putting water down the neck. You see some just they'll be panting a little bit. Let them get the breath a little bit. That's what they're training for.
Couple of questions to you. Who was the best he fought out of all those? Who was it?
On the night you're talking about, who I thought were the best.
Just
Eubank on the night.
Right.
No question.
Right. You were there. You watched it closer than anybody. Who do you think was the one that worries you before? Like, was it Eubank again?
Well, I thought
because Ben was a monster.
I thought he was, but I thought he prepared well. He was ready for Nigel Ben. Trust me.
But obviously the robbery and all that.
Yeah. Well, we'd gone away for me too early. 10 weeks we were. 10 weeks to be in America, and then we got held up in the gym.
Yeah.
Can I just go back to what you were saying about weight with his legs? Look at his shoulders. 12 stone. He's not a massive man. He was in the gym at 12'10". Nobody on this planet would have touched him. He was on his toes. There was no on him, he was just perfect. The perfect specimen. He'd get £10. Now you lift £10 up. And I think it was the Sam Story fight in Halifax. Tell me if I'm wrong, over the thorn, it was Story. He got on the scales, it was something like 12 and a half, something like that. That's when I think it was same day weighing there.
No,
Yeah.
It was,
The day after.
it was Vincenzo. Vincenzo Nardiello.
Oh, in Adiella. Yeah.
See, do you know what? I mean, I sent you a picture of him quite recently, and you wouldn't recognise him. Have you seen him lately?
No.
I sent you. But you know what? He had an unbelievable pedigree as an amateur. You know, he was at the Olympics and all that.
Well, we're just gonna
He
get
was
on with that.
slippery, wasn't he?
That's the one who bothered me. Southpaw as well. Very, very awkward and bigger man than you think.
He'd make you look like you'd never put a pair of boxing gloves on, and he had a pedigree in, you know.
Awkward. Well,
Sorry, guys. What it was before the Vincenzo Nardiello fight, I was fighting with Frederick Sellier.
Yeah.
He was the number one challenge.
French guy.
Which was fine. I thought he's a bit of a bruiser. He comes forward. So what if we were looking for each other? We'll do what we have to do. He would, to be fair, have been the ideal opponent for me. We'd have stood him in the ring. We wouldn't have to look for each other. But a week before, before the fight was expected, for Joe, he pulled out. The stand-in was Vincenzo Nardiello. Completely different. Southpaw, the most awkwardest opponent you'll ever get.
And that was one of your worst performances, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, because I was absolutely dead at the weight. But it is what it is. We're not making excuses. But the excuse is what? He was good. And he was also awkward. Being good and awkward at the same time is almost the scenario we put Michael Nunn under.
Yeah.
Michael
God, yeah.
Nunn was a great fighter.
He'd have beat Nigel Benn with these.
Yeah, but all awkward as well. You put them two combinations together, they're really awkward to beat. So them two, and I'm not unprepared for them. We never sparred against the Southpaw. We never done this. We never done that. So going into the ring and absolutely as flat as a pancake, dead at the way. I couldn't even open my eyes. My eyes were that fire of water. Honestly, really, really bad. But anyway, it was what it was, and I got the win. So we move on. But he got the world title fight before me, and he won it.
Sugar Bomb, I think I was there.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
It was on Ben Collins one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jamie, sorry, digress a bit. Going back to the weight issue, it was something like 12-1, 12-2, and there was no way to get it off him. So I phoned a pal in Halifax who had a pub in there. He had to put the fire on. He had to put sweat stuff on. He don't like doing it. It's not good, but there's so much relies on it. Doing sit-ups, shadow boxing in the front room, and just wiping him bone dry, and he just picked it, didn't you? But once that's it, once the weight's over, that's like out of the fight, the training, and that.
Do you know something? So we, obviously, me and Henry, we're going to make a documentary. We're going to do a book. But I interviewed you both for Mickey Duff, which is out later in the year. And I thought, this is the story of the book. This is hilarious. I was like amazed. And then I read Henry's Dream, and it's in the back about the Jewish cap and all that.
Oh, funny.
Do you know? I mean, that is like.
We laughed, didn't we?
Do you know what? And it's like, I can see this now because I've got to know him. So you said to me, Henry's a silent laughter. He kind of, his shoulders going. And basically, I mean, tell the people the story because it's hilarious. It is the story in the book.
We just went in with the Jewish cemetery in London.
Synagogue.
Drove down to London.
So it's the biggest cemetery in Britain. Old Bushy.
And there were Billy Schwer with the skull cap on him.
Yeah, there's a name for it.
So
I
he
forgot.
said, "The Lord teacher didn't know you were Jewish."
Yeah.
Oh, he's Irish.
It's Irish from Luton.
So we got there, and then we just looked at each other, and we started laughing. This is a funeral of Mickey Duff's, you know.
Yeah.
And
Henry looked at you and went, "I'm not wearing one of them."
Well, I think that's when we started laughing because I thought Gary would say, "Look, we've got that with the respect."
Yeah. And then you both had one on, and then you're looking at each other laughing.
Somebody from the Sky thing says we were coming up, we had tears in his eyes, literally. You know when you laugh that way.
Adam Smith and that Sky.
Adam Smith, yeah, and somebody said you can tell the emotion on the faces, the tears in the eyes. And then somebody handed us these skull caps, and I said, please don't look at me, man. And he said, same to me. And I could see him like that. And he said, it's a funeral.
And you're sat there like Beavis and Butthead.
going back on how much we love the man, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
loved
yeah.
him. So it meant a lot to us, and he always still does. He still lives on.
I'm sure he'd
We talk
appreciated
about-
that.
We talk about him today, but the thing is with it was just so funny because again we're religious people, we all are. So we don't go. It's not against any religion. It's just that
You'd never been there
it spoke
before.
me. It spoke
Yeah.
me because I thought I don't know if I'm doing my religion wrong by wearing with them, so I didn't really know where I was.
I
don't have to wear
same,
one.
I know what you mean.
I think he said to me, "Yeah, we've got to wear one." So I didn't know where I was going. I thought, "What am I going to do with this?"
Yeah.
And the other thing at the funeral, we were all stood up because there's no chairs in there. You know, it's all new to us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then graveside and Gary, the son, he's got the shovel.
Yeah.
We're at graveside, and he just passes. Henry's next to me. I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it. Just passed me a shovel, and then I thought, then I passed it to Henry. Can you remember?
And then basically it dawned on
And
you
I
that
thought,
God-
Don, it's Mickey Duff.
yeah, the great late
yeah.
Mickey Duff. But I mean, going back to that thing to emphasise, I mean, I remember being invited to a Muslim funeral, and I didn't know where I was going, so I thought, right, great couple of beers, and I go in, and people eat with the hands and kind of, so I get that. It's the shock,
We just didn't know.
surprise. But obviously, you knew Henry, and kind of looking on his career. I mean, did he live the life? Because obviously, I've got Junior Witter's book in limbo at the minute, but it's coming out some point this year. And he had a terrible addiction for chocolate. What was his vice?
I can't say he had one. I'm not saying it because he sat here to me, but
He wasn't a beer
maybe
drinker
liked a
or
few beers when we go golfing, and he'd maybe stay out for a few beers. But when he was in the gym, he was in the gym. 100% true professional.
slept well, or I mean,
He won the greatest.
yeah,
sleeper.
you said that.
He's a thinker, he's Henry, but never shown like emotion either way. You don't know which way he was. He might be a bit quiet sometimes. But we used to go when we were away training camp in Tenerife and Marbella. We used to walk for miles, didn't we? We just start walking and talking, after training. Get something to eat and just go for miles and miles.
I tell you what, a lot of talk on the forum, Box Rec forum. Henry Wharton against Steve Collins. Could you imagine that?
Well, that would have been a great fight. Steve
Did that ever
Collins
come
said
off?
to me,
Nearly almost.
I don't think there was any talk of that, but Henry might have
They will
known.
never talk of it.
Kaldagi?
I spoke to
Kaldagi?
Steve Collins, Jamie.
No, because it was all.
Yeah, he was different. Obviously, he was coming through.
Different time.
I spoke to him and he said, "There's one fella I didn't want to. It would do that we had." He says, "One thing I didn't want to fight with Henry Wharton."
Who said that?
Steve Collins.
Did he?
Yeah, that lovely fella.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
a
yeah.
lovely guy.
Lovely.
Yeah,
He
he's a
reminds
hero
me so
man.
much of him. When you shake his hand and he's like, he's strong. There's something about him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Nice fella.
Yeah, well, he was supposed to be in York a couple of months back,
Yeah.
and it got cancelled last because when I used to box with my face as a kid, I used to wear tartan shorts. Obviously, Scottish parents and that, so I'm a huge, big hero man, Steve Collins. But I mean, what about Bomber Graham? That would have been a massive Yorkshire derby.
Yeah, completely different. He was a middleweight at the time.
But you were a middleweight coming through.
My second to last fight was funny enough, but I wasn't middleweight. That was early on. I was super middleweight, and he moved to super middle. But there will never talk of me.
In your book, it says that it mentions about a possible.
Does it?
Yeah. That's why I've just brought it up.
Never got mentioned, man.
Yeah.
And listen, we'd avoided that all contact with Errol anyway. He was a great fighter.
Oh, he was awful,
and
wasn't
Styles, oh my God, he
Yeah.
was a good fighter.
I mean, he literally.
He's an avoider. You want to avoid.
Oh, you want to avoid.
You don't want to avoid.
He literally could have made anybody look like they'd never put a pair of gloves on in their life.
Without a doubt.
You know.
But it never got mentioned, thankfully, because I think we've been a boxer, and what we go for in the world of sport. If it got mentioned, it happened. He said, yeah,
He shared the building, didn't he?
yeah, he was really
Ellen Road.
Yeah, and that was when Sykesy got in the ring.
Yeah.
Well, that's another story, which I wonder whether they ever do that in the film, because I've interviewed the copper, who, do you know, he actually got in the ring and shouted to the crowd, like, come on, and like,
I know he were carrying on, and he was in and out of our dressing room, and he was carrying on.
Yeah,
Norman
yeah.
would have not with him.
I mean, that was sad because John Spencer, he said to me, that was the last time he seen him. He said, because they were close, and he went, oh, Sykes. He went, he had me. Because John had a lot of like business mates, rich men, and they wouldn't have got him. You know, obviously, I mean, John was a lovely man. I've dedicated this Mickey Duff book to him. He was like a big player as well back in that day for Northern, you know what I mean. As I said, I think I said to you earlier off camera, boxing's not the same for me now. Your Tommy Millers are gone, and Brendan Ingalls and Brian Hughes. you know, when you think of some of the real pugilistic, you know,
Boxing men.
Barry Hearn, I interviewed him the other month for the, and he's been involved with snooker, he's been involved with darts.
But he was.
Mickey Duff was just boxing.
We had two fighters relations of Henry Rob Shaw's with Earn. He was a good manager and all, you know. He was. I remember one night they both boxed well, and he put another 50 quid in the money and what have you. You know, he didn't have to do that.
Yeah, of course. But
But
like,
just something about a nice fella.
yeah. So here we are now, 2025. Pipe, slippers, granddads. You probably got a whippet. You probably got a paper under your arm. Two old Yorkshire men talking shop. Like, you know, I mean, do you think you could be one day when you're 88 and you just think, wow, what a journey? Because obviously I've really researched and I've read and I've watched everything, and it was the best part of 10 years as a pro, but that's not even including the amateur side, which you were there as well. You know,
You know, so I think other people see what you've done more than you do. I know that might sound strange.
yeah, because you were involved.
Because you're involved, you know, and time just goes. You just be your mates. We had our stable, you know, Ron Opley's still around now, you know, Gailey, Denzel. Just
So
we still pals now.
you seem like a really close knit,
Most boxing gyms,
like family.
In fact, I could say all boxing gyms, but most boxing gyms, you've more friends in there than. Even when kids go in from school, they have to go to school. They don't have to go to a boxing gym.
Yeah.
But walking through that door, there's people punching bags and blood and sweat flying all over. It takes something to do that. But if they do and they stay, it'll work out for them.
Yeah. I mean, looking back then, I mean, would you change it? I don't know. Maybe life's not to be, you know, hindsight. You probably.
Hindsight, I always say it's a great thing.
You'd have avoided Eubank.
No.
No.
Well, you wouldn't have known, would you? Before you were ready for the taking for me.
Well, he was, but you know, I watched an interview with him the other week, and they said Eubank said this was only the other week. He said technically he put Collins down when it wasn't a knockdown, and that first fight was a close fight. People said, "Were you upset that?" And I think he had a pint off or something like that, and he said, "No, I'm not." He said because Nigel Benn beat me in the second fight, and Dan Schumer, some South African. So that was before Henry. So you must have been rubbing your hands thinking.
Yeah.
Cheers, can I just tell him that, Henry, about what got me about that when he fought Schumer? Because there was a lot to say about the weight. He lost too much weight before the fight and he was exhausted. He was falling all over the place, So the British Boxing Board decided to monitor him. I thought that was bang out of order. Well, if you're going to monitor him.
Yeah.
And monitor everybody. You know, I don't know if it was daily checks, weekly checks, whatever it was, just to make sure he ain't losing too much too quick. Because you did, didn't you?
But it just goes to show you that after when he lost to Calzaghe, he goes up past light heavyweight, and Cruiser them days, it wasn't 14-4 like it is now, it was 13-9, and he almost beat Carl Thompson. Do you know what I mean? So he was and Mickey Duff was right. I watched an interview recently and he said Ben and Eubank are probably in the top 20 greatest super middleweights in the history of the noble art. Like, so you were just unfortunate. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you beat a couple of world champions, and you know I'm not going to be disrespectful, but there's certain names out there that are walking around as world champions, and then there's the likes of your Kirkland Langs, your Michael Watsons, your Henry Wharton, Ryan Rhodes, Kevin Mitchells, Bomber Grahams, you know, Tony Simpsons. Like, boxing's all about timing. You know, but you know, I mean, do you still get the crowd? Oh, I remember you when you were so and so, and all this. These will live with you forever, won't they?
In the early, the biggest atmosphere I can remember was Rod Carr fight, Commonwealth title. I think Rod was first champion at super middle, wasn't he? Yeah, and he's coming over. And you think, is this Australian? We didn't know that much about him. Tapes were hard to get on of him. He was one fit, tough kid.
He's no longer here now, is he?
Died the poor kid.
Yeah, sad. I only knew that the other day.
And when Henry caught him early on, he broke his knuckles. Henry. No one knew that. Thank God the gloves were red, you know.
Yeah.
They took his glove off at the end of the fight, Jamie, and poured it out with blood. And he had it stitched without no anaesthetic or nothing.
Was it always your left hand that had the problem?
No, but both.
I'm like, I'm a bit amazed with the right hand because I said it was just for your
Yeah, I know,
balance.
I know. Anyway, yeah.
No, he
I
could
must
hit with
use
his
it the
right.
once-
He could
The
hit with
once
his
I
right.
used it, it broke anyway, so
Yeah.
it was what it was.
So there's a guy called John Pierce who's a proper boxing royalty, proper childhood hero, man. When I was boxing, he would hand the trophies out proper, and he was like that. He just, his right hand was, but his left hand made up for it. Do you know what I mean? And like, obviously you were like that. But yeah, you know, looking back, and you must have so many fond memories that I dare say it's like when you box people, you have a connection with them for life. You have like this almost respect, and you've been there. You've had guns pointed at you. You've had the ups and
No, stop
downs. He had the charm of a rattlesnake because he was dieting, and you must have been through it all. Do you know what I mean? Like,
But we had so many laughs along the way as well, you know. And you know when somebody's he's honest, he's more honest to himself. You
Yeah.
know, when it comes to training and all. If we're doing 99, if we're doing 100 sit-ups and he's done 99, he said, I've done 100, I'm doing 100.
so
You know,
was he almost a dream to coach because
it was easy to coach.
yeah, because
It wasn't-
boxing there's a lot of difficult people. Boxing is a
There
lot.
are, please believe
Yeah, I've
me.
known a lot, and you know, there's a lot of.
There's kids who
Mi-
think
to-
there's
to-
something else and what.
To quote Mickey Duff, common sense isn't common in boxing. Do you know what I mean? And there's a lot of, you
That's
know,
the greatest asset you can have is common sense.
yeah, and, you know, and obviously a lot of these fighters they don't come from Cambridge University. They come from the council estates and dragged up and all this kind of different things. And you know, there's some very really difficult pros out there, and I'm sure you've been around some. And but he kind of seems almost like
Sometimes Henry would come in the gym out when he had the gym built on his, he had a house. It was
saying
not a
that.
house, we had,
Even when he had the gym built on his house, he was late.
he always lived.
That's how you say it.
Timekeeping,
I've done it on purpose.
Yeah,
he lived 3 meters away.
yeah.
He was
And you got there before
I
him.
got there before.
Yeah.
But some days, if you were training, and that if you're a decent training, you know you're a boxer, you're tired. Now, it don't mean to say you're not fit if you're tired.
Mm.
Right, Henry, have a warm down. Finish.
And
Come back the
obviously,
next day.
you knew he'd retired, but 2000, 2001, did you ever look at your phone and think maybe he might one day, or you knew it was game over? Because you never went and took anyone else on, did you? Or
No, I stayed with a few lads for a bit, but I first walked in with the gym Jamie at 6-year-old. And
so you'd had enough really
I've
as well.
been in it all, and I love the amateurs when the amateurs were the amateurs for me. It's changed a lot now. But
Yeah.
I loved it. And all these lads were turning pro at the same time. And it were great. The ride along with these lads were just fabulous. I've never changed it for nothing. But
You're on Hopley's,
Ron,
Tony
Tony
Silkstone,
Manners,
yeah. Who else is there?
Denzel Brown,
Yeah, you know,
Dave Larkin,
yeah,
Phillipton.
yeah, and like Adam Fogarty and
Alan Foggy used to come and train with us.
yeah,
Another, like I said, nice kid.
yeah.
Great group of people.
See, I actually didn't know Adam never had any amateur because I interviewed him for Mickey Duff, and I watched him, and he looks really schooled. He looks decent, and you know
he was a good overall sportsman in rugby league, man, wasn't he? But he was number 3 everywhere
yeah,
in the country.
you know, and obviously,
behind Bruno and Mason.
but he regrets. You know, obviously, I can kind of look in Henry's eyes, and I genuinely feel he doesn't regret, even though people would probably have been angry with Henry. Behave, sort yourself out, don't be stupid, have a break. You know, once you're gone, you're gone. Once you're retired, you know, you must have had all that. You must have had all that, and you know, and people like the nights out. People like the excitement, the buzz. It's a Henry Wharton fight night. How big was he a ticket seller? Because you know, listen, where did that come from?
I've always said, like, going back to Mickey Duff, you know, mentioned charisma. He always used to use star quality. He's got star quality gal, star quality. He's just got something. You can't say what it is. Obviously, he had his looks, he had his ability, he could knock him out with either hand. He had everything.
Mm.
But somebody's got something you don't know what it is. It's just something. And,
It's
and
like you know, whoever was behind Ricky Hatton, he is like, you know, Henry Cooper was loved. Frank Bruno was adored, a national treasure. But it was almost like Ricky Hatton was like, I'm going to hold my pint. But it was like, and obviously I've learned this, I've kind of discovered it last couple of months, and he
Oh, it was just
staggering, wasn't it? It was.
sell tickets within days.
And
And you know
did you
what
do
it is?
that personally, Henry, to take up people's houses and all that?
No, because they used to come pick them up. It was unbelievable. Well, I'll never forget 'em. I'll always remember what they've done for me because it was a part of me. It become a part of me because it become like what we come with.
Mm.
And half the times, truthfully, within them fights, I still say it because I didn't want to undermine it by any shape. When I had hard fights and tough times, I went through a lot of tough times. And I do believe that they were the third man. They were just another part of me. And to drag you through what you have to go through in them boxing fights, this is why I say about the head. If your brain's not right, your body's not physically strong enough to get through it. You've got to be mentally.
And Eubank was exceptional in that department.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. It was super strong. And this is why I think that what Mickey Duff said to him, going back on that one,
Yeah. Give him a bit more.
Key role, just that 1% more.
See, that's not in your book, but obviously it'll be in the second one with abundance. But obviously, I know deep down you're from Leeds, but you are a Yorkman, aren't you? You're patriotic. On the way here, I've been listening to Shed 7. They're from York. Steve McLaren's from York. Dick Turpin. Guy Fawkes. I've looked, and in my head, I can't think of any one exception like that impressive. Frankie Howard. So I've just had a look. They're all cricketers, low league footballers. So Henry Wharton you certainly put York on the map for me. And for a couple of years, you did put York in the public spotlight, didn't you?
Well, you had best of both those, Leeds and York, didn't you? And all Yorkshire itself, but
Are you a Leeds fan or not?
Yeah. All the way through one.
Are you a football fan or not?
Football fan, yeah.
Right. Okay. Obviously, you're a Leeds fanatic.
Oh, yeah.
For your sins, Well, actually, I'm going to be doing Brian Clough at some point, and saying that the Middles.
He said he didn't like Leeds, but he had 44 days, didn't he?
Well, I don't think they're going to put a statue on us anytime soon. But I tell you, do you know what's really funny? The guy who put the mighty in Leeds United was Don Revie, and he's from Middlesbrough, but Middlesbrough don't recognise him, and obviously Leeds have got a statue in front of him.
Yeah.
But like looking back, summing up, would you do it all again?
Do it all again.
Yeah.
And best years of your life?
Yeah, they were great years.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely great years. Just the build up. What were difficult when the build up, the tickets, the press ringing, the training, travelling about, press conferences and everything. Phone had never stopped. And then when fight were over, nothing. Odd person would be ringing you up then slow next fight come in. When's he fighting again? When's he fighting again?
How did you deal with that? You as a team, because boxing's a very unforgiving sport. I'm really close with Gary Sykes, good friend of mine. He's been to stay at my house a couple. You know him, don't you?
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely man. There's not an ounce of badness in that man's body. Got a lot of love for him. And he said, "Do you know what? All of a sudden, it's like the Angela Dundee quote. Look around, when it's all of a sudden the Christmas cards start coming and the lamb and I think a lot of that." Mickey Duff struggled because boxing was all he had. And he got that down that he went over to his son's, Gary's, and he said that bloody Denny Mancini or Tony, because only his close friends. And he said, he said he's close to, was his family? He said, yeah, he was on bloody telly last week with Wharton. And he went, hang on a minute, Dad. The man still has to make a living. What do you expect? That when the pharaohs, when they died, the emperors, they put it in the will that all the servants have to jump in the shit. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry. All the servants have to jump in the pit with him. Yeah. And he went, do you know what? You're right. Was that depressing? That when you just because the light went away, and I dare say you ballooned up in weight, and I read in the book about you and Billy Hardy, and that was, I think you're quite close, aren't you? And you knew then, but was it hard? Because it must have been hard for you as well, Gary. All of a sudden, hang on a minute, what do I do now?
Yeah, you don't know what's around the corner though. There's only one come around it for you if you're lucky. What was it who's told me, no one would have heard of me as a coach. I would have seen it be a coach in amateurs. Everybody knows me from where we're from.
Well,
But
Mickey
everybody used to
Duffy.
say boxers make trainers.
That's what I was just going to say.
And it's true, you know. It's like, for instance, Brendan Ingle, great trainer, lovely man. He had a good set of boxers. But they start getting champions and winners. The good boxers, they must be doing something right there. I'm going to go to that gym. It's like we did. I mean, Denzel wasn't one of our boxers, St. Pat's. Michael Gale
Bermontoffs he was,
He
wasn't
were Bermontoffs. Michael were Compton. You could throw a court round gyms in Leeds where they were at the time, but they'd come to St. Pat's because we had success. We're producing good kids, and they become your boxer then. But somebody else, Bill Brown trained Henry as a kid. Good trainer, you know.
Yeah.
And then, but you get the credit for it. What I don't like to see is somebody who's spent all their life with them training, and then somebody takes them and all of a sudden he's the trainer.
Yeah.
That's hard to swallow.
Last couple of questions, then, because I know you're busy. So you must have. I mean, what did catch me? It made me feel a bit emotional. Was when you did your biography. Mickey Duff died in the process to that, and he wouldn't have been aware. Obviously, so he went in a home December 2012. So he wouldn't have, his faculties were gone. It wasn't compos mentis, but he would have loved to read that book. And I know it's when I put a picture of you on the other day, some award, and Gary Prager, lovely man, got a lot of time for me running that page, and he said my dad would be really proud. He almost kind of, there's a few boxers I've met, and when I read yours, I thought you were like a son of Mickey Duff, but then Billy Swear was, but then Jim McKenzie was, and there's a couple of others, Gary Jacobs, but then there's a couple that said the opposite, and he was like the wicked uncle, but kind of,
loved you.
yeah. That's what you said for the book, and how looking back when you did that biography, 2013. Have you, like, this is a stupid question, but some people don't read the biographies. Have you read it?
Little bits.
Same as.
So I have.
Right, so you read it.
Read bits of it.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't read it all, to be honest. I'm not a massive reader.
See, that surprises me.
I've read Henry's. I've read Angelo Dundee's book, and that's about it. I'm not a big reader. Should read more, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you should definitely. I've got a lot of books, so I can give you some if you want. But yeah, do you know something? I think.
You know his book, Jamie? Well, I remember being in Queen's Hotel, we're having some press conference. And I said to Mickey, why don't you ever do a biography?
Yeah.
Oh, they're on the old time. This isn't when Henry was boxing.
What year was that then? So he's come out in 99.
90s. And I said, Mickey, you've got to. His book come out in 99.
99.
Yeah.
March
he said
99.
They keep on wanting to do it, but he said, I'm not bothered about doing a book.
So was this the early 90s then?
Yeah. I said it'd be interesting.
That should have happened then, because his mind, and the guy who written it, which was it Bob Mee?
Bob Mee,
So he had to depend a lot on, obviously this was a long time really before, I think he was kind of going, maybe even around that time. I know Nicky Piper said to me, he said that I could tell, for a guy who was John Rowland said to me, he said his mind, he had such a skillful mind, such a sharp, and obviously that was laid low. I personally think it was the boxing. Footballers are getting it now, and I think he had 69 professional fights.
Yeah, but actually at 15, I think, wasn't he?
That's 123 amateur fights, so he obviously took a lot of punches to the head.
He used to ring us up regularly, and ask about how's Henry doing. Is he training? Is he good sparring? Good, 10 minutes later, exactly the same. But obviously, I didn't think anything was wrong with him. But looking back,
there
were
the signs were there.
Early signs.
Yeah, but there's no doubt that I remember talking to you, Henry, last year, and you actually said, and exactly quote you, went, I don't want to be famous. But then we were talking about something else, and it was just something. And that's, I'm in London this week, probably with a couple of people who actually are in that bracket. But you're in that, you've achieved, I dare say, greatness. It's a legacy, if you like. But why should you not be remembered? We're all gonna go one day. We're all, but you've got kids. You might have grandkids. I don't know. So obviously, what my interest is, we're going to go on a journey together. We're going to do a sequel, a biography, and I've got to commend. Is it Jim Kirkwood? He done a terrific. He
good
done a
job.
terrific job.
Yeah, lovely
He
one.
done Tony
Yeah, nice one.
Tib Simpsons, was it? He did
Yeah,
a
he
couple
did.
of others.
Yeah.
Has he stopped writing now?
I don't know. But it's a gentleman's gym.
But you know, for my personal thingy is you've got a lot more to say, or a lot more to reveal. Even just a few bits here, like what we've spoke about, they're weren't in your book. And obviously a film, which we're gonna talk the filmmaker before I go today. He does deserve it, doesn't he?
But you know about
But he's
my
humble
life,
and he won't go, and it's
well,
nice.
just a big point. I'm just going to say,
Yeah.
you know, he says humble, and if there was 100 people out there, they're always waiting to meet, slap him up back on. There was a door there.
He'd be embarrassed.
He'd go out that door.
Mm.
He shuns. He's never been full of himself. Never,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah,
Never
egos.
craved. I mean,
Yeah.
if I would have been him, I would have.
Yeah.
No. But he.
You know, it's you know, writing books can do funny things to people, and you know, we're all a little bit egotistical. But you achieved. I mean, I spoke to you the other week, and you were like, you know, I wanted the world title, but did you know that when in St. Pat's and you went pro with him? Did you think this kid's going to be British, Commonwealth, European, three-time world title? He's going to box in America.
No. I'd hope he could be.
Yeah.
But you can't think that.
So you must have thought, hang on a minute, maybe a British title-ish.
You can't think that the early fight, his first round knockout, and his early one, and then you think, hang on a minute, this kid can obviously make it.
Did he? I mean, obviously, I've watched a lot of his stuff, but did he have any scary moments in his career? Like,
not that. Only one I can see with Nardiella, because I thought, oh,
yeah. So there wasn't any like
So
banana
you just-
skins. Because I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Henry. A lot of people on the forums think that Ellen Road should have went the other way.
It was a commentary that night.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never ever doubted that.
There wasn't one doubt in my mind. Not even me as a fighter that night, because you generally have an idea where you
Never
are.
in a million years.
Not in a million
Did you
years.
know you'd lost to Ben before the decision?
I had an idea.
Yeah, you knew you'd lost to Eubank.
I had a good idea.
Did you know you lost to Reed?
No, because that was close.
That were close, yeah.
That was close.
But you had terrible preparation for that.
Yeah,
I'm not going to bang on about it, but there
I
was,
won't do that to Robin. That's,
yeah, no, he's a lovely man,
yeah,
and
he's a
I've
lovely
interviewed
fella,
him
Robin, and I've got
for
lots of-
you know, you had something which is in your book, which I'm not going to bang on about, but obviously there was a huge thing which emotionally upset you, which you know,
Yeah.
but you know, Robin Reed went on to achieve fantastic
Good
things.
fighter.
And,
So I wouldn't do that to him.
He's a nice
great
man as well,
fighter,
isn't he?
Robin. Yeah, he's a lovely guy. So and a good champion.
Yeah.
So good luck to him. But
Yeah.
yeah, there was a few scary moments, I mean, but
yeah, and last question: what's your relationship like today? Obviously, life gets in the way.
I keep my eye on Henry with what he's doing, and he's producing. He's putting.
Oh yeah,
He reminds me of me, but similar thing that I used to love coming at gym, and I had 30 odd year of it, you know, being at gym every single night just takes over your life. You can't do anything, you know.
Are you winding down now then? The kind of towards.
Yeah.
So basically, the
I'm
missus
knocking on a bit
and
now.
missus has really put you in this like.
No, she'd have me out. She
Yeah?
wants me to go out. But
Right.
it's like the headquarters, your gym, our gym, St. Pat's went, and once that went, what do? You get a building. We got another gym, and then they had to move. We had to move out. You know, it's a difficult one, and then you want the boxers to come in the gym to have a stable. It takes a lot of your time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It takes all your time.
And obviously, I dare say, you put a lot of your time into to his twin, Ron.
Wrong.
Yeah.
No, I go over and I take my son with me to do a bit of training. Not as often as I used to do, but get over now and again.
So I was talking to someone the other day, and he said Henry Wharton, lovely bloke, and he's always with that guy who's been his best. And I actually thought it was Gary Atkin, and then as I was talking to him, it must have been Ron Otley.
It's wrong.
When did you meet each other?
it was in St. Pat's, funny enough.
How old were your
come through,
kids?
Ron lives in Ripon, so it's a little bit of a way to him from
Yeah.
Leeds. So he started boxing, come to Leeds, picked up his
So yous were
things
kids?
alongside each other.
Teenagers?
Yeah, and that was it. Yeah, teenagers, and that was it. Never looked back.
Yeah.
All them years.
Yeah. And obviously,
he's an example, isn't he, of walking into a gym, because Ron is the loveliest man on the planet, and he's pretty
It's his
quiet.
birthday
And remember,
today.
his
Happy birthday, Ron.
Ron. Yeah. He's he came out of Ripon, and it's not a big town, is it? And he came out of
yeah.
Leeds,
See, I used to live in
big
Ripon
city.
like 20 odd years ago, and it's like You
When he
know,
walked at the St. Pat's, when it were bursting at the single boxes, we had 2 rings, with dozens of bags, and everybody punching. So to do that, he's never boxed in his life.
oh, do you
And
not
he,
even been an amateur?
no.
Wow.
Then he went on to box for Pat's as an amateur and had a good career as a pro.
Yeah, he was a good solid
And
pro.
now he's passing it.
He'd done a few sessions at an army gym and then he found St.
Yeah.
Pat's at
Yeah.
Do you know that's the thing
And
with
he's
the
passing it
boxing
on to kids now.
connects. Do you know what I mean? It connects people, and I know. Listen, you don't have to be. I think Ron Hopley, by the sounds of it, is being one of boxing's success stories because you don't have to be some kind of super champion. Do you know what I mean? Boxing changes to makes you be a better person.
It makes you be, I would just
You know,
say,
the
a
only
nice person.
the only
Because
thing I
him and him, you could follow. You know?
yeah, the only thing I got out of boxing was a damaged nose, but it kept me off the street as a kid.
It makes you into a better person.
Do you know what I mean? And obviously
and a lot of friends, lifelong friends.
and with him, you know, I was talking to my publishers the week, and I said I did Alan Thompson's big, and I said, you know what, I'd have done that for free. And it's like with him, I watched his whole career. Like even though I was a kid, I knew. Do you know what I mean? And obviously he wasn't from that far away, and I watched everything. And yeah, today still speak and kind of like
People still talk about Henry Wharton now. Nice dad when he boxed Ben at Earl's Court, we'd win in the taxi with Mickey Duff. And it was like going to rugby league final.
Do you know I was there last year? Do you know Earl's Court's gone?
Has it flattened now?
So I was there last year, and
Wow.
I said, "Where's Earl's Court?" And the bloke went me there, and it's gone.
Really?
Yeah, but that's where fought. Sorry, that's where Eubank fought Wharton, and that was a proper.
Big old venue.
It's gone.
But you've never seen so many supporters. Every pub were heaving with all lads outside with the banners walking on, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely amazing.
I'm taking literally buses and buses went down. Yeah.
You know what was there? It's like we said in the past. We didn't see it. Like when Kerry were trying to get it across, we didn't see it, Kerry, did we? Because we were so involved in what we was going to do. We didn't see it. When people said, "What's it like for you? What did it feel like? It's coming out." We were too involved in what we were seeing that.
I remember what you
that
said
was
to
our
me,
target.
Henry.
We were going towards it.
What you said to me, it'd be lovely for us to sit and watch
Did
us. Remember?
Yeah.
You know, to check the atmosphere in.
Well, that's basically something interesting because basically I'm gonna sit down with him this summer. I'm gonna record a book, get a contract, get it all done. But when the documentary comes, we'll have a screen night. We'll have like a premiere. Do you know what I mean? And obviously with him, his story and people and all that kind of thing. It's and then how long's a piece of string? Potentially it could be huge. But I dare say, and then the thing is with him as well, a lot of people know him, they're not even boxing fans. So I was at work about 3 months ago, girl from Harrogate, and she went, I know him. And obviously, and she went, my other boss went, oh, he's good looking, isn't he? And then I think I told you, I was watching one of his fights, and the wife sat up, really interested, and went, is that the man you went to see the other week? Oh, he's good looking, isn't he? It's like, so he must have had a bit of a heartthrob. He was a bit of a following, I dare say.
Oh, definitely.
So, but do you know what, mate? I think this has been long overdue. And do you know what, Gary? I mean, we met last summer, and I meet so many different people of all walks of life: footballers, boxers, actors, gangsters, like kind of. And you kind of stuck on my head for a while. No, it was brilliant. Do you know what I mean? I think remember I actually you give me a lift home, but I wasn't supposed to be as long as I was. And the interview I did, which I sent you yesterday, it was an hour and 40 minutes.
Did you what else did he say now? Supposed to be picked up, wife's picking me up, blah blah blah.
So I think
where do you live? I said. He said Middlesbrough. I went, I'm living in Thursday. I'm at Thursday.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking him to Thursday.
Yeah. Is that far though?
Far enough, isn't it?
Was it?
You come to see me. You must know how far it is.
The wife's driven, but do you know what?
I didn't like.
You've got memories that'll last a life, and I don't know, maybe you might want to document it one day. But he definitely deserves, even though you won't say it. I'm sure there's people like you, Ron Otley, Denzel Browns, and
we're still the best of pals, honest to God, from all that time. Forward with me, Denzel, Ron, and Henry. You see a lot of pictures, and we'd all see whatever we've got to do is if we're ever together, Loads, haven't they?
Yeah, and you do have a lot of pictures from back in the day, and obviously you've got footage as well, haven't you?
I've
Obviously,
got sparring,
from the
which we've never even, we used to watch them. We'd go
Keep
back in
promising
America. Remember in America, we had a video on the telly and watch the sparring. That's the only time we've ever seen it. So it's 30 odd years,
Yeah.
tapes.
so that needs to come out in the
Needs to come
documentary
out.
and all this.
Someone needs to take it.
And yeah, last words to you guys. What's the plan for the future? Henry's
Just
obviously
keep breathing.
Henry's basically building an empire. Lots of young kids. Your boy Moores, the big heavyweight.
Yeah, we've got loads, Jimmy. The thing is with it, going back on the boxing career, right? Just breathe. Keep it as brief as you can. If all the knowledge that I had over the past, now it passes on to the next generation. That's the truth. Because the knowledge, you can't take the knowledge out unless touch wood, nothing happens. But that knowledge is in there now. I can pass that knowledge on. And touch wood, the fighters are coming through. And then they're just walking off the street with no prior knowledge to boxing. But the experience that we've got has gained for them. They're going on a different level right now. They're on a platform. A lot of them fighting for titles. And we've got young lads who are winning European titles, 5-time national champion. So hopefully.
Is that boy?
Yeah,
5.
Boy more. Look more.
Wow. So he's definitely a potential superstar, isn't he? He's actually your cousin, isn't he?
Yeah, he's my cousin's lad.
Yeah.
So lovely fighting. So all that knowledge hopefully clears a path for them, and makes them.
Because all these kids next door weren't even alive when you were about.
But I was just going to say, it's not just the skills you're passing on, it's how to behave. It's how when you just go to the shows, what to do, you know, there's so many things involved in boxing. And when they start doing press conferences and that, remember we've never been to a press conference like this when he turned pro. So you're learning all the time.
I remember Denzel Brown saying to me a lot of things that Mickey Duff used to instill in me. I'd tell my kids. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure you are the same. I think you did tell me that for the book.
You do.
One person I've listened to more than most people, but anyone seen it.
Yeah.
It was just the
Do you know he
business.
actually never boxed him as well?
No, with the business, it was great.
Do you know Nigel Benn said, without him, I wouldn't have won that John McCall fight?
No question.
But yeah, listen, you'll probably be around in boxing for another 20 years, won't you? I think it's literally what you do. It's who you are. You know, and yeah. And you were just basically watching from a distance. You're not involved as you
They still
were.
all be friends. And we love it the same. When we have duels, we invite each other over, and we have games of golf now and again. But he's out of pin now, and he's very busy with
I know
gym.
that.
And especially if you've got a pro game, if you've got a fight on, you've got to be committed. You can't say, you know.
How good are you at golf? Because I read somewhere that you're almost
very good.
Like,
No way.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm all right at my level.
Yeah.
But there's levels in this game. There's levels in boxing. So, but going back on the boxing side, Jamie, we can all achieve our goal. We can all achieve our best, let's say. You don't have to be a world champion to be the best that you can be. If you have one fight and it's your best, that's your best. If you win or lose, it's your best. Everybody's looking for the goal. They're thinking if they're not winning world titles, they're failures. That's wrong. That's wrong. We get kids in here who would have never laced a glove on, and we get them to box. They've already achieved the goal. They don't have to win a medal. They don't have to do anything. They've already won it. People put the expectations too high sometimes. They've already reached the goal. That's all you have to do. Reach the best that you can be. And that's it. You've done it. You've won.
Yeah, and obviously you've got. Is there any keep fitters in here?
Yeah, there's keep fitters.
Is there women classes?
We've got all different classes, so they're reaching the goal as well. So, it's exactly
so basically, you're keeping people off the street, because I know some gyms won't have that.
Gyms do. That's what there should be a boxing gym on every corner for me.
Yeah.
The amount of kids I've seen going gym or bad maybe with the drugs, the robbing.
Because
you go in a gym
bad drug problem, doesn't it?
Changes people for the better. Boxing.
Yeah, but do you know what?
Gyms, anyway.
Do you know what? This interview, side by side, Gary Atkin, Henry Wharton, fighter, trainer, close friends. This has been in my head for probably the best part of the year, side by side. And a lot of people remember that. You know, listen, I was a kid. I didn't really fully appreciate kind of thing, but a lot of the Yorkshire folk. There's a guy called, I must say this before I go, a guy called Paul, is it Heppelwaite or something? He's on your page, and my wife knows him, I think it's from Harrogate or somewhere. And it's like there's people, I had like that lad, man, lovely guy, I brought here, not and there's people like, oh, Henry Wharton, I'd love to meet him, and kind of, do you get that in York these days, kind of thing? Like, as you're about, oh, wow, used to be somebody, you know, that kind of thing. And
I don't go out much anymore. No, you always get it, especially if I go taking the lads to another city, another town.
Because I read something the other day in Sky Sports, 2013, Henry Wharton, where is he now? And it's like, do you know what I mean? Like, have you not read that? And it's like, you know, all these old faces, and I meet them all the time, and you know, a lot of people change. They're not a flyweight anymore, and you know, even though people have changed, you don't think, well, hang on a minute, I've changed as well. You know what I mean? It's like in your head. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like you look at people and think, Jesus, like you put 7 stone on, but we've all got old. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of never grow old. It's a privilege denied to many. But
Jamie, just a quick one. Sorry to stop you talking. I was at the golf club one day, maybe 5, 6 years back, and we've all changed, like you said. So we sat at the bar, place where I'm normally at. So this man was talking to me for quite some time, and he said, "I recognise you." He said, "I recognise you. I don't know where I recognise you from. I must know you from school or..." Anyway, so we went to get round. So I thought I knew where he was going. So I tried to help him. So I said, "Do you play polo and things like that?" He said, "Yeah." And he started talking about sport, and he went, "It's you, it's Henry." He said, "Minutes." I said, "Yeah, it's Henry." He said, "My God." There was different words on that. He said, "You've changed."
mm-hmm.
He said, "I can't believe you've completely changed." I said, "Do you know what it is?"
And
I recognised him. And I said, "I'm not 22 anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not 22 anymore." I said, "By the way, not being disrespectful." I said, "You're not the same kid as I remember." And that's just how we've got to view each other, not as we was, as what we are.
I still think though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's like Mickey Duff once said he was on a train, and you probably heard this story before, and somebody come up to him looking at him. Didn't you used to be Mickey Duff? Didn't you used to be? I thought that was quite funny.
Do you know, Summer? I just wish. I mean, the publishers this morning said to me, Jamie, it's 106,000 words. It's almost 400 pages. I said, but it needs to be in. I said, you know, and Kevin Mitchell from The Observer said he'd done so much of his life. When he died, you couldn't even get half the. So obviously, that's what the man did. And for me, I personally think he's a potential Netflix. He's some kind of series down the world, you know. And maybe you are.
There was a lot of stages to his life, wasn't there? You know, the fighters are coming and going. He stayed there all the time. You know?
Well, do you know what? A lot of people, obviously, he did end up a wealthy man, but he had a hardship. He as a kid used to sleep in Whitechapel train station, the tube. So when you've been brought up with poverty, because it was, you know, the Spitalfields as Jack the Ripper country, and you know, but there's so many people for this book, and they went, well, I don't know whether he was, I don't know whether he was, and he was almost like the perfect person to be, you know, he would drink, but he'd just have 1 or 2, or he just, it was almost like he just knew how to, he was secretive, he didn't blow his own trumpet, you know, he knew everyone, not because he had a picture of him and an autograph, he knew him because he knew him, like, do you know what I mean, and they wanted to know him. But I'm amazed no one's ever did it. I'm glad, like, because obviously, you know, I'll probably have the blueprint on it, but it's been people like yourself. I think you've got 6 or 7 pages, and you've got about 19.
So go on so much.
No, but it was brilliant. I think there's only Duke McKenzie. Duke McKenzie had 20.
We probably could have done a chapter, few more chapters.
You could have done a book, do you know? But listen, keep it for another day. And obviously, we're going to do a book, and there's going to be there's going to be a Mickey Duff chapter, whether you like that or not, and plus a documentary, like a little stage. Do you know what I mean? But looking back, life today, grandkids, kids, your young lad there, George.
Yeah, he can box as well.
How old are you, George?
24.
Are you going to be a boxer then, or are you
He's good enough to be. He trains for boxing, but he
got a head
I won't
switched
let him
on?
time off work. Well.
Yeah. But no, do you know what? It's been an absolute privilege. I've studied what you did for the last couple of months, and like I've kind of worked out, Henry, that you need prodding, which is very admirable. In the Bible, Jesus says, never brag. And that's because there's a lot of people who can brag who haven't done half of what you've done. And I dare say you kind of get embarrassed about some of the things, and where people just want to know and people want to talk. But no, do you know what? Long overdue.
That's
And
what true friends are as well, because if we don't see each other for 12 months,
it's like
it's like
you spoke last
we
week.
picked up where we left off yesterday,
Yeah.
It's true. Like unfortunately, we were at a friend of ours' funeral a few years ago, and I'd seen some of that for years. And we were like, we'd just left each other the day before, It was great.
Yeah.
What great being there.
Going back on the things where we took taking the next generation
Yeah.
forward, hopefully, to where you can take them. All the things that me and Gary had in the past, what we use as the past now, was knowledge. Things we learned along the way. Things that hopefully they don't have no stumbling blocks. They have less stumbling blocks because we've gained the knowledge and the pitfalls. And so hopefully you can take it forward. And it can be worth something in the end. Because we did have a few pitfalls and we learn along the way.
There's no shortcuts, is there?
No shortcuts. No shortcuts.
And the thing is, as well, you can't teach a dog new tricks. What are you going to do now? You can't just go, I'll tell you what, I might start being a barber today or learn a bit of plastering. You're an old fighter. You're obviously still good looking, but you can, I don't think you took a lot of punishment. Do you know what I mean? Kind of you.
No.
I
think the referee was hitting me.
You can keep an eye on that referee.
Yeah. But no, do you know what, guys? It's been absolutely terrific.
Nice
And
seeing
listen,
you.
and obviously, Henry, you're a very, you are actually aware more than Ronnie Biggs. You're a guy hard to pin down, but are we going to?
I'm sorry, Jimmy.
No. Listen, you've got a life.
I apologise. I know.
No.
I am going to Porto next week.
Yeah.
So we're taking 15 fighters to Porto.
How many?
Yeah, 15.
Right.
So it's an open and a novice competition. We're taking all the full range. And it is Porto in Portugal, yeah. So you are busy. You are busy doing what we do, and I don't mean no harm.
No, God, no. I'm busy as well. I work full time away from bloody this. Do you know what I mean? Kind of COVID ruined my business. If you like, bloody, no one's got money for gas, electric, petrol, stores to buy a book. So I kind of be involved now with stuff. I kind of want to be involved with. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm interested. Like I've sat with footballers and boxers last couple of years, and I thought I should be paying you to hear this. I've been to an even with John Hartson and paid for listening to stuff like this. Do you know what I mean? Or Nigel Benn or whatever. And do you still have the same love for boxing? Like I know you. Do you still?
Oh, you've got to.
Do you ever walk around shadowboxing?
No.
But they say when that stops, that's when a lot of love. Like when did that stop?
It's funny, I sometimes do that.
So do you do it?
We did today though.
Maybe when my lad's passing me, I might let him have a few. Do I? Don't tell him.
Yeah.
Don't tell him.
We was laughing. Our gym was. It was a long gym in St. Pat's. It was a long gym.
Yeah.
So the parents used to come. Who knows? So the parents used to come wait at the top end where the door was. So we used to go, and the parents would come in. A gentleman with a tie, suit on, come from his office, upstanding. We used to say, "What's the odds that he'll punch one of them bags?" They used to go, "No, he won't punch the bag. He won't punch the bag. He will." How many people? I think there was one person in all the years who didn't punch the bag.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what as well. If you're a boxer and you go in a gym, I've done it in here. I'll do it in Roms. You cannot walk past the bag without just. If it's just that, don't matter. You can't do it.
Yeah. But no, do you know what, guys? Thank you so much. And listen, what we're in now, so we're in April. I think some point this summer we'll sit down, we'll do a book plan. Like everything in life, the book comes out before the film. I don't know what you're going to call your biography. I don't know who you're going to do the forward to. I don't know even you're going to dedicate the book to. There's things that you might need to be thinking. I don't know. I mean, your first one though, wasn't it dedicated to? Was it your parents or was it you?
No, it was. My mum was on the back. And that was on the back, and I
But you
just
thanked
say-
Mickey Duff and all that,
Oh,
and him and
I
that.
thanked him.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
that was it,
always, yeah. And even when I got the Hall of Fame, British Boxing Hall of Fame.
What year
and
was that?
The only people I thanked that day, apart from my mum, the mum was the first one, was Gary, Terry, and Bill Brown, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, do you know what? Henry Wharton's story goes on, and you don't have to be a narcissistic sociopath to get your story out. And listen, there's a lot of kids in there that obviously got your experience, but us, the boxing fans, listen, do you know what I mean? All my fights, they ended in the first round, first 20, and then I won one. Do you know what I mean? But I was around and I still loved it, and I'd look, do you know what I mean? So, like, you know, I sometimes look at my job sometimes and think, like, you know, if you enjoy what you do and you never work a day in your life, and so to write about Henry Wharton or some of the people I've met, and I get off in it. You know what I mean? So why? And there's a lot of
Get a
people.
lot of stuff, you know, Jamie. When we get together, if you were having a pint, somebody will say something and just trigger off a load of
Yeah, of course.
what we've forgotten about.
Yeah, absolutely.
The journey's been pretty good and it's still going on, but it's been good.
Yeah, how old are you now, Gary?
I'm 67 in June.
So you literally 10 years between you, is it?
I was a
Yeah.
fairly young coach,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah. Right, so you were like in your 20s when you, so you were in your 20s when you met and he was like 13 or something?
I was in my 20s, yeah. 1982, so I've been 24.
So you've known each other now literally for 40
Since
years?
82.
Or 45 years, maybe, kicking on?
Never beat him at golf.
Never, not once?
Never not beat him at golf.
Right.
He's a good golfer as well.
Are you really?
I'm not a good golfer.
Yeah.
I keep trying.
No, but you know what? Listen, guys, I'm going to take this over. I'm off to London. I'm going to put this out next week. Jamie Jr. is going to edit it. And then it'll be out next week. Last word to you then, guys. Want to thank anyone or?
You remember it when it's canvas off.
Yeah. No, listen.
Well, maybe Henry. Thank Henry for being easy to train. Easy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Compared to some.
I mean, because there is people out there. I've read all the books. You know, I mean, imagine trying to train someone like a Michael Gomez or, you know, and they're drinking all the time and.
Well, if it's all about you, you just, no matter how good they are, you've just got to stick up. You go somewhere else.
I think another thing, Jimmy, as well is I've always said it. If I was offered money, to coach somebody, it's a job. I'm in the business. If I was offered money to coach somebody, I couldn't sell myself if I didn't like the person.
Yeah.
I would not necessarily like them. If I didn't get on with them,
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything for money.
Yeah. And the
It won't be
trust
for
is the
money
big
for me.
thing,
You
isn't
train
it?
me in it.
Yeah, training for
Was
life.
that any good?
Of course you are. Class.
Yeah.
There's always class. How many rounds have you been do?
Oh, millions.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Always have some fun, mate.
Yeah.
The best time. Do you know when you talk about trainer and coach and boxer and coach, Jim, the laugh we've had along the way. That's what I'm saying. People go, oh, is it tough age? Is it really hardship? Is it this? Is it
Funnies
that?
were live on television once, but we
had
won't
the
go into
best-
that this
We
time.
had the best time. We had the best time.
Yeah.
We had the best laughs. We had the best time. It was just unbelievable.
And
Enjoyed
I
every
watched
second.
you the other week. This was about 10 years ago. You were sparring with one of the McDermotts from Wakefield.
Oh, Brian, yeah. Brian's a good lad, Brian.
You know, and it's a funny story actually. There. Do you know there's a load of brothers?
No.
From,
I know Brian very well.
No, there's a load of them. And Paul Sykes, basically, his dad was terrible for going around going, I'll get over Paul. So I think the dad did it to their son, and the dad was like, go get your son, I've got about 8 of them. So do you know what I mean?
Brian's a lump and he's still careful.
He actually could box, I watched him.
I've trained with him and had him pads and the lot. He's still got
And
it.
those rugby players.
He's very, very fit.
Yeah. So, no, do you know what, guys? Absolute pleasure. Listen.
Keep saying this, don't they?
Yeah. Listen, Henry is got lots of different things going. I'm going to put his links in the bio. So this is Henry's gym. It is massive. Anyone who fancies kind of joining, training, keeping fit, competing, whatever, he's very approachable. And just click on the link and give him a message. Gary, always a pleasure, my friend. We're going to have the Mickey Duff book out this back end of the year. You're both in it. A lot of people are in it. And me as a boxing fan, do you know what I mean? Obviously, when I first spoke to you, and you told me about he had a fight with a taxi driver, and then I was
Oh,
just
God.
like, I just thought I've got to go see him. Do you know what I mean?
So I remember, I won't go on because we're finished.
Yeah.
I remember that we yesterday. He came up and he's
DJ
no
Barlow
glasses,
glasses.
nose bleeding. He said he just had a fight with a taxi driver. Well, we laughed
Yeah,
because the glasses he put on, modern for the boxer who had them on, but they were Deirdre Langton glasses, and he had to wear them the same,
yeah,
and he looked so funny.
yeah. Absolute classic. Right, thank you so much, guys.
Thank
Always
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you, Jen.